Africa towards inclusive economic dialogue, development dialogue, is set to take place at the Wits Origin Center at the University of Wits under the title Financing Infrastructure Development in the Context of Climate Change. The dialogue is set to focus on long-term infrastructure planning and development in the energy and water sectors. Water resources engineer Dr. James Cullis is one of the experts who's going to be participating in this gathering taking place next week. He joins us now just to tell us a little bit more. Good afternoon, Dr. Cullis. Welcome to today. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, this policy dialogue is happening at a very interesting time in our country. And just today here and on eNCA, we've been focusing on the crisis of water. And the question of infrastructure comes up a lot. And our weather services are warning about a tropical storm, Filipino, that's coming off from Mozambique towards Limpopo and Mpumalanga. So that's really about climate issues. So it's happening at a very opportune time. What do you hope it will achieve?
So, hi, thanks very much for allowing me to join and sharing this conversation. Yes, it's a very relevant topic of conversation because we're starting to see increasing climate-related events globally and particularly affecting the water sector, but also infrastructure in general. Everything from heat waves and fires to extreme storms and droughts. So we've had droughts in recent events in South Africa. We can think of Cape Town, Nelson Mandela Bay, several other municipalities. And as you quite rightly mentioned, also increasing storms and floods. And all of those are associated with increasing warmer global temperatures, which is driving things like the water cycle and leading to these more extreme events. And so ensuring that our infrastructure is resilient to these increasing weather frequency and potential magnitude of weather events is absolutely critical. And in South Africa, we've actually had a long history of dealing with extreme weather. You know, we've had a long challenge around ensuring water security to our major economic centers like Gauteng, which is miles away from any reliable water source, and other cities. So we've actually developed really good integrated infrastructure systems, and similar on droughts, we have really good standards and policies for accounting for floods. And what we're seeing is these are being stressed, and it's starting to expose some of the challenges around not only planning but also the implementation of the infrastructure and the needs, and most importantly the continued maintenance and operation to make sure they serve the function that they have.
Yeah, Doc, are you going to be exploring what impact climate change therefore has on long-term infrastructure planning? I mean, the theme is around financing infrastructure development in the context of climate change.
Absolutely. So the idea is to look at, to say, what is the infrastructure or the financing gaps? How much do we need to help make that infrastructure resilient? And we looked at various sectors. So we particularly were focused on the water sector, from a water resources and water services perspective. So it's seeing what is, and it's not only about climate resilience, but it's also meeting like the Sustainable Development Goals or our basic human needs as well. So the aim of the policy dialogue is to say, with this increasing stress of climate and social pressures, how do we, sort of business as usual around sort of financing and implementing infrastructure, things need to change or speed up. What are some of the innovative ideas? How big is the gap? That's one of the things we looked at. How much do we need? What are the existing, what existing financial opportunities are there? And what gap is there that needs to be closed through, using innovative technologies, kind of alternate operating systems, alternative financing mechanisms, and it all comes together, and that's the purpose of the dialogue. How do we invest, find the finances, find the capacity, find the resources to actually implement some of these gaps.
There's a lot of intersectionality here when you talk about the gaps. Absolutely. I know you are a water resources expert, but the point is, just now, Johannesburg, because of a power outage at the Ekenhof pump station, no power, the pump is not working, no water. We're sitting here 10 days later, some areas of Johannesburg, like in Randburg, still have no water today, but things are beginning to improve. So how are you hoping this dialogue could shine more light or bring to life a public-private sector investment in the right kind of of climate resilient infrastructure, both energy and water?
Absolutely, and you're quite correct. We talk about what we call the water, energy, and often food nexus. They're all interconnected, and we see sort of the need to provide water is important for supplying energy and power. Similarly, we need reliable energy sources and reliable institutions to provide water and actually food as well. So the idea is the policy dialogue is to show these interconnections and how it's really important and why we need to be investing in multi-sectoral kind of infrastructure solutions and challenges. And it's not just sort of physical infrastructure, but it's ecological infrastructure as well. You know, protecting our catchments, our rivers, our natural capital, as well as our human capital, our institutional capacities. And that's in many ways a common theme across all these infrastructure challenges. Is also linked to the need for institutional capacity development, and that's where also we need to come up with innovative partnerships. You know, can't rely purely on the public sector to provide that support, but there's a lot of private interest because they're starting to see it's becoming a real business imperative, as we've seen in the energy sector and we've seen in the water sector and in transport as well. So the idea is to bring this dialogue together to raise awareness, identify the gap, and possibly open up some conversations about particular relationships and partnerships to have a whole kind of holistic solution going forward.
I mean, this is SA Tide, which speaks about Southern Africa. That is my understanding.
Yeah.
Are you hoping there will be on the table when you meet next week, Monday, at the Wits Origin Center, there will be some experiences coming from our neighbors, for example, in the region?
Yeah, so there's lots of lessons we can learn. The main kind of policy dialogue is largely focused on the South African context, but we are very connected to our neighbours, you know, and so that's important not only from learning lessons, but you know we share river basins with several neighbours. We get energy from outside of South Africa. We get water from outside of South Africa, and we discharge it into other neighbouring countries. So yes, that will hopefully be part of the dialogue and lessons. So you know. Namibia has implemented innovative technologies in water reuse. You know, what can we learn from that as well? So we're applying those lessons in the South African context.
Find out, Dr. Cullis, before you go, are you confident that as a country we can develop a bankable pipeline of climate resilient projects going forward?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, several of the projects have already been identified and so noted, and we've got certainly both in the water and in the energy sector already have an idea of what is needed to provide this resilience. And it's a matter of getting it implemented, and that's pulling together not only the investment and the financing, but the capacity to implement and operate and manage it going forward, and really see implementation on the ground, taking those plans and putting them into action. So that's where we hope, and again, why having it at the senior level discussion at this national policy dialogue is so important.
Thank you very much. All the best, Dr. Cullis. Hopefully we'll touch base with you or one of your fellow participants after next week to see what the outcomes are out of this SA Tide conference. The Southern Africa towards Inclusive Economic Development Dialogue set to take place at the Wits Origin Center here in Johannesburg next week. A very important